A small story at first that grew into a daily siege of Festina's hotel, as first the team doctor and then the manager were taken in for questioning by police. When the team manager confessed to systematic doping within the team on the eve of the Stage 7 time trial, race director Jean-Marie Leblanc had no choice.
Nous avons pris la décision d'exclure l'équipe Festina du Tour de France à compter de ce jour.
But Festina's riders, led by the charismatic and hugely popular Richard Virenque, refused to be excluded, and their time trial bikes went on and off the team cars like indicators of how negotiations were going. Finally, after a meeting between Leblanc and the riders in a cafe near the start, the biggest star in French cycling led his team out of the Tour in disgrace, denial and tears.
Qui nous a énormément soutenus et qui va encore nous soutenir. Et je donne rendez-vous à l'année prochaine. Merci.
For a while, it seemed like there might not be a next Tour. Stage 12 was disrupted by a protest from half the peloton. Then, after police raided the TVM team and forced their riders to hospital for drug tests, the whole race ground to a halt on Stage 17. Riders argued among themselves about whether or not to go on. Bjarne Riis negotiated with Jean-Marie Leblanc. The Frenchman Laurent Jalabert left with his Spanish team Once, and 3 other Spanish teams followed. All the while, the biggest stars in world cycling sat on the road like demonstrators against a new bypass. For a long and fractious afternoon, it looked as though they might not finish the stage, and not finishing the stage would have finished the Tour. In the end, the TVM team linked arms, rolled across the line in Aix-les-Bains and straight onto the first plane home. There'd been no racing and there was no stage result. The Tour did reach Paris, but wounded, losing public goodwill and riders. Of the 189 who'd left Dublin, 96 rolled onto the Champs-Élysées. It was the closest the race has come since its very earliest years to simply stopping. Mario Cipollini, the most adored cycling hero in the history of Mario Cipollini. Super Mario, the Lion King, owner of the world's largest wardrobe of themed lycra, and the only man ever to ride the Tour with a stencil of Pamela Anderson staring up from his handlebar stem. But he was fast. On his day, no one could beat him. And although his day took a while coming in the 1999 Tour, when it did, he kept on coming. Going into Stage 3, Italy's greatest sprinter hadn't won a stage, and all the attention was on whether his great rival Tom Steels could win 3 in a row. Mario prevented that with his first win of the race, Stage 4 to Blois at a speed of 50.355 kilometres an hour, the fastest in Tour history. And then he couldn't stop. He won again the next day at Amiens, and when Steels seemed to have got revenge by spiking Cipollini's hat-trick, the Belgian was disqualified, win number 3. Not since 1930, when Charles Pélissier won the last 4 stages to Paris, had anyone managed 4 in a row.
Fognini goes for the line. The lead-out man will swing off, probably to our right as we watch. No, our left he's gone. Now on, there's been a crash, and in fact Zabel lost his pedals there. He was lucky to stay upright. That's disrupted the sprinters now, and he's left Cipollini clear. Cipollini, 4 in a row. He goes back to 1930, and he's got the win again. Unbelievable.
Cipo's finest moment in the Tour, and one of his last. 3 days later, he turned up to Stage 9 dressed as Caesar and threw in the toga, abandoning the 99 Tour de France as he abandoned all his others. Now, all the moments we've shown you so far have been in colour and on videotape. No doubt in due course that'll become a quaint format evocative of past glories, but for now, nothing says history like a bit of monochrome film, and possibly no climber in history was better than Luxembourg's Charlie Gall. In 1958, the Tour was 3 stages from Paris, and Gall was nowhere, 15 minutes behind the race leader Raphael Gemignani of France. That all changed on Stage 21 from Briançon to Aix-les-Bains, when Gall launched one of the great solo attacks in Tour history.
En attaquant le Lautaret, le Tour de France abordait une étape décisive, 220 km et 4 cols.
220 kilometres, 4 mountain summits to get over, and Gall, number 91, made good on his pre-stage promise to attack on the first of them. He had another great climber for company to start with, Federico Bahamontes, but at the top of the Louis Tell he was riding solo. The day was a deluge, and the worse the weather got, the greater the damage Gaul was doing to the men behind him. At the summit of the Col de Port, he'd taken 5 minutes from Gemignani. Descending to Coucheron, it was 7:50, and on the Granier, 12 minutes 20. Gaul was first over the line at Aix-les-Bains. Gemignani came in 14:35 behind him and collapsed in tears. Other favourites like Jacques Anquetil had lost over 23 minutes. His rivals called the attack a throwback to the pre-war days of massive time gaps. It pulled Gaul back to within 28 seconds of Gemignani, and he took the yellow jersey the day before Paris.
C'est dans le nom de Charlie Gaul qu'il faut inscrire en tête de ce 45e Tour de France, un des plus animés de l'après-guerre.
Danger is a constant presence on the Tour de France, but the death of a rider is extremely rare. In 1995, Fabio Casartelli, the reigning Olympic road champion, became the third to die on the race. It was stage 15 from Saint-Girons to Cauterets. The 24-year-old Italian crashed on the descent of the Col de Porte d'Aspet and suffered fatal head injuries. The next morning, his Motorola team stood together at the start in Tarbes to pay their respects, and finished together at the front of the field as the whole race paid its respects. Then, 2 days later, Casartelli's teammate, the 23-year-old Texan Lance Armstrong, offered a very personal and highly public tribute, a solo escape on the road to Limoges.
Lance Armstrong now looks to the skies as he comes home. He dedicates this stage to the teammate Fabio Casartelli. This one, Fabio, is for you.
Mark Cavendish's debut tour was just made for his debut stage win, 2007, in front of his home fans in the UK. But it didn't happen. The young Manx sprinter crashed on stage 1 and stage 2, punctured on stage 6, and ended up abandoning the race without ever having had a sniff of victory. The 2008 tour didn't start a great deal better, seemingly too chaotic ever to coalesce into a proper sprint finish, until stage 5, when Cav took matters into his own hands, which is to say legs.
Cavendish is there, and he's done it!
The day's disbelief of stage 5 gave way to growing self-belief on stage 8, when he equalled Barry Hoban's British record of 2 stage wins in 1 tour.
As Cavendish races towards the line, he gets it! That is unbelievable!
Clearly, Cavendish was the fastest sprinter in the race. The problem was that his chance of an historic hat-trick lay on the next flat stage, and that lay on the other side of the Pyrenees. He almost didn't make it. After another crash on stage 10, he struggled up the climb to Hautacam, arriving just inside the time limit. 3 days later, though, the mountains were behind him, and so was the rest of the field, as Cavendish made history in Narbonne.
Now goes Cavendish, goes from the centre. This is a perfect lead out, and this is how he goes. And beat that, he is the fastest man in the world right now, Mark Cavendish. There's nobody even comparing. Mark Cavendish becomes the first British cyclist to ever win 3 stages in a Tour de France.
Which he followed the next day by becoming the first British rider ever to win 4, already halfway to the British record for career stage wins in a single tour. Tour finish line barriers have little scallops every 50 metres or so.